This is in the 60s. Also, my father was running for mayor, and we did experience some racial problems in Woodmere too, including
Mm.
a cross burning in our backyard.
Wow.
But my father got elected for, I think he was there for 2 terms. And interestingly enough, my mother grew up in this neighborhood. So
Mm.
this was her home territory, and people knew her.
Help us understand what that was like and what you're seeing now.
It was terrifying. I was the little mountain. It wasn't a mountain. It was really a crossroads on the campus where kids would go to class. I was on my way to class, walking across that area, and then the next thing I knew, they were shooting.
Mm.
Now, interestingly enough, this was on a Monday, if I recall correctly. They had been on campus all weekend because in Ohio, along the turnpike, there were snipers. And so these National Guards had been on duty all, but on Friday night and Saturday night, well, they were out on the yard, so to speak, talking to students, being friendly, smiling, whatever, being friendly. And girls were putting flowers in their rifles. Um, and then for this to happen on Monday, it was a shock.
Unreroute the rivers.
Welcome to Confronting Whiteness, Testimonies of Transformation, hosted by Reverend Ben Boswell of Charlotte, North Carolina. This podcast shares the stories of real people whose lives have been changed through the Confronting Whiteness journey, a program of spiritual formation and anti-racist practice that helps people racialized as white confront their history, privilege, and responsibility for change. Each episode offers a testimony of transformation, stories of awakening, courage, and hope that remind us what is possible when we engage in this work together. To learn more about the Confronting Whiteness course and community, please visit confrontingwhiteness.com. And now, here's this week's conversation.
Down by the river, dip your cup when your spirit's low. Clap your hands down.
Welcome to the Confronting Whiteness podcast, everybody. I'm excited today to be here with Gail Perry. Gail was born in Cleveland, Ohio, and raised in Woodmere Village, where her father was the first Black mayor in the state of Ohio, and her mother was a clinical social worker. Gail attended Kent State University in Ohio during the time of that amazing and awful National Guard shooting, and that there are, of course, Neil Young song about. She first served as a maternal and child health project manager at Georgetown University, and then worked as a teacher in Arlington Public Schools for over 20 years, where she retired. Gail has an extensive anti-racist background, having participated in nearly a dozen anti-racism trainings, and is both a participant and a facilitator of Confronting Whiteness. Gail, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, we're delighted to have you. And as we do with everyone, we like to get started all the way at the very beginning. And by asking you, how would you describe the religious background and racial formation of your childhood?
I was raised in the United Church of Christ. The United Church of Christ, Congregational and Evangelical Reform, and some other denominations came together in the 1955, I think. In Cleveland, which is where I went to church, there was Mount Zion Congregational Church. It was an all-Black church. It was very middle class. Many of the members, families knew each other. Some were, veterans. My father was a veteran. Some were college educated. Some were in school and going toward a professional degrees. So this was kind of the middle class. My parents joined this church, number one, because they were very involved in the civil rights movement. This is in the 60s. Also, my father was running for mayor, and we did experience some racial problems in Woodmere too, including a cross burning in our backyard.
Wow.
But my father got elected for, I think he was there for 2 terms. And interestingly enough, my mother grew up in this neighborhood. So this was, this was her home territory, and people knew her. While
Yeah.
I was at Mount Zion, the minister and his wife were like parents for us. They, if we needed something, they took care of us while we were in church, which was wonderful. Uh, Once I came to this area, I continued to want to be a member of the United Church of Christ. So I started out at People's, which is an all Black church, congregational church in Washington, D.C. And on occasion, I wandered over to Plymouth, UCC, which is an all Black church in Washington, D.C. But then I moved into the Arlington area, and I wanted my son to be able to participate in church activities. So the closest church to me was Bethel United Church of Christ, a little tiny UCC church with a multicultural composition of congregants. We had some Asians, a couple Blacks, and white people, but it was very small, and it ran into trouble. So I don't know who sends the replacement. The minister left, went to California, and the person that came was very destructive. He tried to just tear everything apart. And my friend and I had been doing the church school, so when he came and he replaced us with a white male, a white gay male who had no children, I found interesting. So that's when my friend and I both left. And I had to find a UCC church that had kids. At the time, 2 of the 3 churches near me didn't have kids. The only church that had kids was Little River. That's how we got to Little River.
Okay.
But, that my formation had a lot to do with civil rights, because that's what my parents were doing. And I was surrounded by that. I mean, several of the UCC ministers involved in the movement, like Ben Chavis and Andrew Young. Andrew Young came to our church, he came to People's, and eventually married his second wife, I think, married one of the women at People's. So, we had ties. Also, my parents had ties with Otis Moss Sr.
Okay.
He was in Cleveland. My uncle went to his church. So there was a lot.
UCC world's a little pretty small still. There's a lot of
Yeah,
connections.
I know that.
Yeah.
But all of these people were heroes in my mind. And I knew who they were, and I had not necessarily met them, but they were part of the movement. So yeah, that's what kind of formed my whole perspective on church. And I'm still looking for that.
Well, because I'm sure it must be hard to find, because your upbringing, Christianity and civil rights, there was no daylight between them. They were the same thing. The fight for civil rights and the following Jesus were synonymous with each other.
Yes.
And you were raised in that from the time you were a very young child, and all the churches and the leaders and your parents, that's how they thought about Christianity, and they were a part of the movement. And then you grow up and, of course, find yourself in other churches where maybe the priority has not always been that.
No.
What's that been like?
Very distressing, in that, I don't know if I should mention names, but the new minister at Little River came with her own personal agenda. She had focused on, I don't know, some progressive minister in the 1800s, a German minister. And she's written a book about him. She includes him in her sermons. And by that point, I had read enough to know that I didn't want to hear about this German progressive, particularly when you say progressive. How is somebody who lived in the 1800s progressive? I don't get it.
Yeah, right.
I don't get it. So, I've asked them several times, what do you mean by progressive? Well,
Mhm.
anyway, they had some theological background. So that caused me a lot of consternation. My son has gone, but I didn't want to hear about this German all the time. Um, and as a matter of fact, I learned about the doctrine of discovery, which
Mm.
really sent me over the deep end. Uh, Little River is trying to develop an anti-racist ministry.
Okay.
But I couldn't handle it anymore because they're so far behind.
Mm.
You
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
they've had a workshop about uh, microaggressions,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that was all new to them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's hard.
Um, and it really became hard for me to just, okay, I can't handle this anymore. I was, trying to participate for the last 10 years. So it
Right.
wasn't like I didn't give it a good effort,
Yeah. You're
but I
just
had
in a
to go.
totally different place spiritually and politically.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So I had to go.
Well,
So,
I was thinking about your time in college and what you witnessed at Kent State while you were there, and I was thinking about it in relationship to what's going on right now with National Guard troops in Washington D.C. That connection must have crossed your mind as you live
oh,
so
yeah.
close to D.C. and you were on campus at Kent State when the National Guard came in, and of course violence broke out. Help us understand what that was like and what you're seeing now.
It was terrifying. I was the little mountain. It wasn't a mountain. It was really a crossroads on the campus where kids would go to class. I was on my way to class, walking across that area, and then the next thing I knew, they were shooting.
Hmm.
Now, interestingly enough, this was on a Monday, if I recall correctly. They had been on campus all weekend because in Ohio, along the turnpike, there were snipers. And so these National Guards had been on duty but on Friday night and Saturday night, well, they were out on the yard, so to speak, talking to students, being friendly, smiling, whatever, being friendly. And girls were putting flowers in their rifles. Um, and then for this to happen on Monday, it was a shock.
Yeah.
It was a real shock. School closed down immediately. Kids were put on buses. They couldn't get. Parents were calling into the university, but they couldn't get through because the lines were all tied up. My mother was hysterical.
Yeah, I
Uh,
bet.
by the time I got home, they were just crying. They were just because they couldn't get in touch with me. Um, since that time, I've kind of followed school shootings.
Mm-hmm.
And this was before Columbine,
Oh yeah, way before.
way before Columbine. And there were school shootings before Columbine.
That's true.
I want people to know that. Um, to shoot at kids, it's just disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we keep talking about, yeah, it's disgusting. And don't say you want to share your prayers and blessings or whatever. This country's got to do something about this. We've been talking about this for a long time,
Right. Right.
a long time, and a lot of kids have died unnecessarily.
Yeah.
And one observation I've had, with the exception of Virginia Tech, all the shooters are white males,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
all of them.
Yeah, and what do you think about that in relationship to, confronting whiteness and your experience in the course there that, that how do you think it reflects the sort of the moral vacuity of our society, the moral
Mhm.
disease that whiteness is over so many people?
So we're superior. We can
Mm,
kill. We can kill who we want to kill. We can
right,
steal from whoever we want to steal from.
right.
We can put you in jail.
Hmm.
Um, we can destroy your We can take. These are all principles that I've learned historically, that the United States has used these principles from the first day they showed up on the shore.
Mm-hmm.
The stealing the land, killing the whoever's there,
Mm-hmm.
or making them so sick with their diseases that they die, separating families.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
separated African Americans from their children. They separated Native Americans from their children. They separated Mexicans, and I don't know that we know a lot about Mexico having part of the United States, the
Oh
reason,
yeah.
the purchase. And
Yeah.
so these were those people that they're trying to deport. Their ancestors lived on that land.
Yeah. Owned that land. Yeah.
Yes, and they owned that land. And then once Andrew Jackson sold it,
Yeah.
no, he didn't sell it. Yeah, he did. No, he
I
didn't.
think
He
we annexed a
bought
lot of
it. He
yeah.
annexed a lot of it, and he told the people who had lived there, "You can live on this land." Blah 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 blah. And then as soon as he got control of the land, he threw them out.
Right. That's right.
He threw them out. So these are principles of America. This is,
Mm-hmm.
and they keep doing the same thing. It's white supremacy. And I was really upset when I discovered that the doctrine of discovery came from the Vatican.
Right. That's right. And then was taken up in multiple Supreme Court cases here in America and used as justification.
Justification that God said we could do this. You're
Right.
kidding. God didn't say that. That goes
Right.
along with the argument that Jesus wasn't white.
Well, you've done a lot of anti-racism work in your over the course of your career and your life. Tell us a little bit about some of what you encountered and what you've worked on, and what was different about confronting whiteness for you, if there was something different.
Well, the first thing, and you were using materials that Black artists and authors, and that was very different. Even with challenging racism, all the materials that they created, are kind of academic, but they don't talk. There's not a lot of bringing in different people's cultural products, so to speak. So that was just fascinating. I learned a lot. I had never read that article about property.
Yeah, Cheryl Harris.
And then I finally figured, oh, is this what it means? I mean, I learned a lot. I also never had been exposed so much to James Baldwin.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
I agree.
What he wrote in the 50s is still happening today.
Yeah.
Which also made me say to the people at Little River, you guys are so far behind.
Right. Yeah.
What are you doing? And as our country kind of splinters, they really are behind, which seems like whiteness enables you to say, well, I'm not a racist. I didn't do any of those things. Those were way back in history. It's time to get over that. Or they look at you like you're crazy.
Yeah.
They look at me like I'm crazy. And I don't want to lose my privileges. You people are trying to replace us.
Right.
Okay. And it's always been Black people have to solve this problem. And we can't solve it. Another book I read was called, I tell you, I read a lot.
I know you did.
It's called Birth of a White Nation, The Invention of White People and Its Relevancy Today. And I learned all about the Bacon Rebellion.
Yeah.
I learned about why we weren't slaves to begin with, but there were these other people who had
indentured servants. Yeah.
Yes. And
temporary slavery. Yeah.
And then they got together and the Virginia politicians, whoever, didn't like that. This is because they might rebel against us. So
Right.
that's when they started, categorizing people. It's like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And they've continued to do that.
It was the protection of property. They did that to protect their property, right, and their power.
And their power and their control. That's not the way I learned in my religious upbringing. Well, didn't Jesus said such and such?
Yeah.
I don't understand. So now I understand more about Christian nationalism,
Right.
or white Christian nationalism. So they're taking God with them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very stressful because I want to fix it.
Yeah, I bet you do.
I don't want to deliver this to my grandchildren.
Right.
And interestingly enough, my grandchildren, my son married into a family from El Salvador.
Mm.
So now the kids are Salvadorian Americans, African Americans, white Americans. And if you see the 6 grandchildren, one of the mothers is white. So her kids look white.
Yeah.
Then there are other, the second family, the parents are kind of brown. So the kids are kind of brown. And then there's my 2 grandchildren. They're, about the same color as I am, but it's like a rainbow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when are white people going to get over this?
Yeah. It shouldn't matter, right? What phenotype or how much melanin they have in their skin, but it's all related to the history of colonialism, right, in this country.
Yes.
And how your grandchildren are going to be treated over the next, 50 years depends. It still depends on the history of colonial occupation of this country and the exploitation of labor and the expropriation of land. And it's amazing how something that's we think is old and gone and over, right, it still has such power over our lives every day.
Well, Donald Trump's using some of the same strategies as those who came before him. The Southern strategy.
Right.
I've heard him use the manifest destiny.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in high school, I didn't know what that angel was doing, flying across the picture. Why is she doing that? And then there were the Native Americans in there and the pioneers in their Conestoga wagons. It's like, I didn't get it. Okay. It took me close to adulthood to realize that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal, that they are endowed with certain inalienable rights, and among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And then I discovered, they're not talking about me. They're talking about white people.
Right, white men with property.
But I as a kid in an American school had to learn that stuff and be able to memorize it. I don't remember the opening of the Gettysburg Address, but we had to memorize that and perform. So I'm pretty distressed over what I see happening.
I was going to ask you, what's been your experience of what's going on in DC?
I'm upset.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of my friends, white and black, they don't want to talk about it.
Oh,
because
really?
They don't want to be upset. But this is insane.
It's insane.
And I don't know who's going to stop it. My hopes were resting on the Supreme Court.
Right.
But that fell apart. And I'm sorry to say, I'm really embarrassed by Uncle Tom, Clarence, because he was a product of affirmative action. See, I watched those hearings.
Right.
With the Coke can and the hair in it back in the day, because I worked for the House of Representatives for about 8 years.
Right.
yeah, so he's been a real turncoat, and as I tell a lot of people, he too drank the Kool-Aid.
That's I'm glad you brought up Uncle Thomas Clarence, Uncle Clarence Thomas. Um, one of the things that, this course was created intentionally for folks who are racialized as white, because that's who created this problem. That's who needs to do the
Fix
work
it.
most on it. But we've had people of color like yourself who've wanted to go through the course, and you are unique in having not only gone through the course, but become a facilitator. And one of the things that I often say to folks who are saying, well, how are we going to do this work with that in a mixed group? Isn't this course, built for white folks? And there was even some questions about whether or not at the very beginning when we started, whether or not people of color should be allowed to take the course, right? I use quotation marks intentionally there. And I decided, no, we're not going to replicate the exclusion of American culture in a class that's intended to help people overcome exclusion,
Mhm.
right? So we ended up opening up to everybody. And one of the key phrases I often use when I say is like, you don't have to be white to be a white supremacist, because this thing is not about biology or skin color. This is about power and about an ideology that anybody can consume and take on, regardless of how they're racialized. And I know that resonated with you, but I want to hear what your experience of going through the course has been as a person of color.
I was delighted, and I wanted to listen more to what the white people were saying. Hopefully, they weren't going to be uncomfortable because I was present, because I really wanted to hear what they had to say, and explaining why they behave the way they do. I still haven't figured that out, because if you're the king and you own everything and you own everybody and they all have to kiss your ring, why can't you talk about this? Especially when it was your ancestors. And in some cases, people they've elected to office are racist. Uh, and some of the neighbors are probably racist. Uh, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get why they don't get it.
Yeah. So in some ways, was it eye-opening or just more frustrating to hear the
Well,
answers?
it's probably more repetitive, because
Okay.
remember, I had been in mixed groups with white parents in Arlington, and in some cases, mixed groups of teachers. So I've heard some of this. Now, Arlington had issued a resolution to become something to do with equity. And so every time they mess up, we remind them about their resolution.
That's good.
Which is helpful. And we have, through challenging racism, we have done some training with the Department of Human Services in Arlington. But I wanted to hear what people had to say. And I didn't want to scare them off, because I think they're scared.
Sometimes I think they're afraid, maybe afraid to be honest about how they really feel or how they really think, right?
Well, yeah, but I'm asking them to be honest. Now, I'm hoping they're not going to curse me out.
That didn't happen, thankfully.
No, or call me names, but I want them to be honest, and I would like to be able to create an environment where they can be honest. We tried to get a group from Little River to go through Confronting Whiteness, and I had a white partner. Nobody registered, and it was open for like 3 weeks before we wanted to start. Nobody registered, so that was closing the lid on my commitment to Little River.
Disappointing. Yeah,
it was very disappointing, and they've done things in the past. They read a book called a place called I forgot it. Some place in Annandale called, I can't remember the title. And then another woman came with a another book, a Black woman talking about her ancestors in this area in Annandale. But all these people are sitting in their rich houses on land that they push these people off of. And then, oh, that's very interesting, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
I don't really like that.
It feels like there's sort of two major problems you've identified that are things that come up in the work that we try to do around confronting whiteness. One is this constant white people being sort of constantly trapped in some kind of denial of what happened, right? It's sort of like, even when you say, oh yeah, I know that my parents were slaveholders or settlers or whatever, I know that, there's not then a movement to make amends or engage in this work to make changes. It's just like kind of a meaningless acknowledgement. And or then there's other people who just say, I wasn't privileged. I had no privilege. I came from poverty, not recognizing just being born in white skin is a privilege in and of itself, and gives you psychic.
They don't understand that.
So there's a lot of denial on the one hand. And then on the other hand, it seems like you're pointing out even those who are willing to talk about it don't really feel like can't seem to do anything. Can't seem to act and live anti-racist lives. So we have sort of these two-stage problems, and they don't necessarily map onto liberal or conservative. They just map on all white folks. And that one is denial. And then even those who are trying to move out of denial, it's inaction.
Yes, they're stuck.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
What do you think that is? Yeah.
I don't know. They feel guilty, I guess. That's what I get. They feel guilty.
Guilt is the impediment then, you're saying, like, because it's interesting that you're saying that, because a lot of people would say, well, I don't want to feel guilty, so that's why I don't think about it. But you're saying also they already feel guilty, whether they should or shouldn't, and that guilt in and of itself might be the thing that's preventing them from doing anything about it. They're even overwhelmed with it.
Talking about it. There are a couple of people in that church who have ancestors came from, which was it? The Boston, the Mayflower. Which one came into Boston? The Mayflower.
Yeah, Mayflower.
They've had ancestors on that boat, but they don't want to talk about it. But they have the wealth as a result of that. I cringe every time I hear about a house in Annandale or even Arlington, $1.6, $1.8 million. Plus they're gentrifying, so they're pushing Black people out.
They're still displacing, which is what they did from the beginning.
Yes, that's what they're doing. They're displacing. That's why I said they're still fighting the Civil War. They can't get over it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to share with you a book I've been reading. I don't know if you're aware of this one. It's called The White Storm. This is 2025. I'm a bookaholic. Anyway, the author, it was actually born in Sweden. He's white, but he talks about racism as the foundation for this country. But he also talks about racism is going to tear this country apart. And given what we are seeing with the president and his cronies, whatever they are, racism is tearing this country apart.
It already has in some ways, right?
Yeah, well, they're working on it. I mean, like the woman who on the Fed board.
Yeah.
Why'd they pick on the Black lady?
Right.
Or he's sending troops to all the Democratic cities that have Black mayors. It doesn't matter if they're women or men. He wants to do that. So far, he's hit cities with Black mayors.
Right.
Okay.
And not to mention the folks being targeted for deportation and detention are all people of color.
Yes.
And not white American European immigrants.
No.
Or European immigrants, or even even Asian immigrants, they're mostly,
Brown.
you know,
Now, actually, I saw something recently on Facebook. They are Native Americans all the way from Canada down. They're Native Americans. And they pride themselves on that. But how can you go on like this? Most of the world is brown.
right. That's right. Yeah.
And you're this little tiny segment of people. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Who said that they were in this whole mythology about, like I mentioned,
Yeah.
manifest destiny? Um, that God told us we should do this and that we should take this land and we should kill babies and we should do whatever we want to do.
Right. It feels like a lot of those things, the mythologies that you described, manifest destiny, doctrine of discovery, even whiteness, are really all just justifications for
Yeah.
greed, violence, power, theft.
Yes.
Isn't it just feels like they're all just justifications. They're not actually, it's not like there is this thing called manifest destiny. That's not real.
No.
It's completely not real. We invented it to justify what we were already going to do.
Yes.
Right.
Take their land and kill all of the Native Americans.
And that's sort of what we mean. That's sort of how whiteness works. It's a justification for,
Okay.
racial hierarchy, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
If you had to define whiteness, in your own terms, now that you've kind of gone through this work and you're at this stage in your racial development, an awareness, how would you describe whiteness?
It belongs to people who have European ancestry.
Good. Yeah.
Who believe that they biologically, intellectually, psychologically are superior to everybody else in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, they do the things that you just mentioned. They steal, they kill, they're greedy. That's what whiteness is about.
Right. Right.
They don't see that. Oh, well, I'm not greedy. What you live in a nice house in Annandale. I've been in some of them.
Right. Right. Right.
And I can't figure out, you only have 2 kids and you got a house with like 6 bedrooms. Why do you need a house that big?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's mind-boggling.
Right.
But the sense of guilt goes with the denial. This whole issue of trying to connect what they do with Jesus to make it justifiable.
Yeah. But it rings hollow. And it must ring even more hollow to you, given that you were raised with a form of following Jesus that was linked to justice and freedom,
justice, yes,
and equality and peace, and all the things that are, I think, if you peel back the layers, truly there in the life and teachings of Jesus.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
But they say they're about that, but they don't do anything. And they do something opposite to what Jesus taught them.
Right.
Love one another. They didn't love me when I was on the search committee. I was called toxic and something else. I can't remember. Anyway, and they kept trying to say that they were diverse congregation. It's like, wait a minute. You took a survey and like less than 1% of your congregation is diverse. Now that included the Mexican woman, a guy who didn't want to be labeled as non-white. He wants to be white, but he's really Filipino, but he tries to claim he's Spanish because he has a Spanish surname. And then there's me. And I think that was it.
And they were claiming racial diversity.
Yeah, because
you were saying, don't say that about yourself. that's not true. What's
That's
the
not
point?
true, but they argued about the wording,
Mm-hmm.
um, and the things that they elect to do are not moving racial justice
Right. Right.
forward.
Do you think they imagined their community was a safe place for people of color?
I'm assimilated.
Uh-huh.
Okay, if you assimilate, then yeah, you can come in as long as you know follow the program.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's like you got to become like them.
them. Okay, but you're still on a lower level, but you got to be like them. You have to follow their rules, do what they do,
Mm-hmm.
and they really are not interested in what you have in mind.
Mm-hmm.
I so I've seen them. They've had a couple of quote unquote fairs where they invited people from the community to come in and had a cross section of people, different kinds of people. And I was so upset because the church, white church people, only talked to themselves. They didn't talk to the community. So I think they have a safe place, but they don't know what a safe place is for somebody else.
Yeah, that experience that you just described, I've seen it so many times in churches. It's sort of odd. It's very disturbing and strange,
Right.
but it's kind of a default mode of operation for most white folks. They'll go to an event and there'll be people of different race, and you'll just talk to their people.
They talk to the white people. I
Yeah.
went to somebody's house in Arlington, and that's exactly what happened. I sat in the room, and I think I was the only non-white in the backyard. Um, and they talked around me. I tried to engage in some conversation, but it kind of fell flat. So after an hour, I left. But they talked to each other.
Oh yeah. Right. That's right. Yeah. It's like that was a way of doing exclusion even with you there.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
You're here, but we're still excluding you.
you're right.
Yeah.
They didn't ask me anything about myself. It was in North Arlington, and I've got this prejudice about North Arlington. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know if you know about the missing middle, about housing.
No,
North,
tell me.
well, the I'm not sure who started it. I know Voice. Do you know that
Yeah.
organization? Voice and composed of different churches put together something called the missing middle to increase multifamily housing in Arlington because
Oh yeah.
all the housing on the north side are the multi-million dollar houses.
Right.
And the kids who go to Yorktown High School are little snobs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a big fight because they wanted to be able to put housing anywhere where there was land available, which might mean in North Arlington. A big fight, big fight.
Right.
Um, Especially since they're building townhouses in South Arlington.
Right. Right.
So all of this seems so hypocritical. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you say one thing and then you do the opposite.
Yeah.
Um, so all of this stuff is still going on.
Right. Exactly. It's all still happening.
It's still
Um,
happening.
and so, you've been through the course now. You trained as a facilitator. How would you describe after, and you've been through so many other trainings, how would you describe the impact that confronting whiteness had on you? And if you had a change or a transformation in any way, how would you describe that change?
For me, it was more about learning more about white people,
Okay.
how they operate,
Yeah.
and how they respond to things that come from Black culture.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have this thorn in my side about the word woke.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been talking about this for a while. woke. The term woke was used the summer that Michael Brown was murdered
Yeah.
in um,
Ferguson.
Ferguson, and it was used as please stay woke and be aware of police primarily.
Mm-hmm.
These white people have gone crazy. They have laws now. I've seen bills coming out of committees with woke in it.
Anti-woke legislation. Yeah.
I've heard the president use it. It's in the newspapers. This is the woke generation. It's like, what are you doing? That's appropriation.
Right. Right.
You took a word and you weaponized it and you're using against black people. It's like a dog whistle.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, but white people don't. I mean, black. I don't know. Maybe white people don't get it, especially the ones that are not politically active.
I think the part of the problem is, there are certainly a segment of white folks that maybe are oblivious, but there's a lot of white folks that understand it very clearly and they're all for it. You know what I mean? They know they don't have to have a dog whistle. They know that the president is racist and they're happy that he is because they themselves are also racist. I think there is a population that would say, they know that this is part of this is an attempt to roll back any progress that Black Americans have had. And they're afraid of losing their place in society. And they're afraid of revolution. They're afraid of losing their power, losing their property, losing their beautiful house in Arlington. They don't want to lose. They don't want to lose the power and privilege they have. They don't want to live. They don't want to live in a world where they're equal to Black folks, because they know that would mean less for them, or they think
they think that means less for them, but they don't have any evidence of that.
Right. That's right.
They don't have any evidence of that. They keep their houses. They're driving their fancy cars.
Right. That's right.
Their kids are going to the elite high schools and the elite colleges. And they look down on kids. There was I don't know all the details, but there was a big fight last fall between Wakefield High School football players, and I don't remember, it was a Fairfax County football team, and they got into a big racial spat. So, not only are these adults, racist, but they're giving this, teaching their children to be racist.
Yeah.
And children are aware of racism very, very early.
Oh yeah. It's like they internalize it without even knowing what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, what? I struggled with that for a little bit, I think, as a kid. Somebody told me that if I ate enough white rice, I would turn white.
What?
Yeah. When you're a kid, you believe this crap.
Yeah, these are the crazy things that people tell
kids say. If you eat enough, it'll make you white. Okay.
And it's ridiculous.
Okay.
And why would you want to be white? Right? Like, let's start there.
Well, in the case of my K through 12 education, my mother and her cousins had gone to the school system, Orange District school system. And it was really white then. But when I got there were 4 Blacks in my graduating class of 250 kids. It was still white. And I noticed that when I got to like middle school age, all the social interaction was cut off.
Okay.
When you get to that, so that's when all the things that they've learned from mom and dad start to juice up.
Yeah, in elementary school, it's hard for them to totally understand all that. But then once they get into middle school,
they're on it.
And so that's why there's that famous book about why do the Black kids and the white kids sit separately in the cafeteria.
Yes.
Yeah. And it starts.
And they still do.
It's because the parents live separately, right? It's because there's segregation and the parents are racist and they're trying to, continue to map that onto their children.
But you can't tell that to them.
Right.
Can you? Can you tell white people Hey, you're
That's what
racist.
I mean, I'm trying.
I know you are, and I know that there are people
Yeah.
who really are committed to doing that.
Yeah.
White people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we got this whole, what is it, 70 million who voted
Right.
for Donald Trump. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
That's a lot. It's a
They
lot.
drink the Kool-Aid.
What let's end on a word of hope, because this has been amazing, and I could talk to you all day about your life. It's so
Oh, well, thank you.
yeah,
Thank you
it's
so
so
much.
and you've really seen so many different important moments in the history of race in America. I mean, growing up in the civil rights movement, and having that rich Christian of the civil rights movement version of the civil rights movement, and then your father being the first black mayor. That was sort of that moment in American history where black faces in high places was seen as a solution to some of the problems of inner city life or racial divisions. And a lot of American cities ended up putting a black mayor in power, and then leaving them, setting them up for failure, right?
Yes.
And that was the story of what happened in the 70s. You were also at Kent State, which is a place where civil rights and the anti-war protests came together in a very powerful way.
Oh, yeah.
And then you were at Georgetown. You were in the public school system. You've seen the changes in the public school system over the last 20 years. You've been through all these different stages in racial justice history, racial history in America. What if you, I don't know if you feel hopeful. I'm sure you probably don't feel hopeful all the time, but if you were to imagine, what would hope look like? Like what needs to happen for change to come in your mind, and what would be hopeful to you?
Well, South Africa used the Truth and Reconciliation.
Yes.
That would help. Um, Little River tried to do that to some extent under Dr. Cribs,
Okay.
but having truth and tell the truth and try to reconcile.
Let's have a national effort of truth and reconciliation around slavery and Jim Crow, and
Then they always want to focus on slavery.
Yeah.
They don't want to talk about all the terror.
Right. As soon as slavery was over, then there was lynching and KKK and Jim Crow. And
I just read in this book that I don't even remember where it was, but the black father tried to vote, and he was, turned away. And so the town officials kidnapped his two children and lynched them and then burned their bodies. I almost grossed out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And these people were like the sheriff and the mayor.
Right. This wasn't just like random citizens. These were the leaders of the town, right? The White Citizens Council.
No, it's just gross.
Yeah.
But, they're not going to stand up. Well, what would look like hope? I think truth and reconciliation. And then I'm all for putting it in print.
Yes, for sure. Put it in print.
I want it on video. I want it in print so we can have lots of copies and put it away somewhere.
What do you think about, once the truth and reconciliation happens, what do you think about a reparations effort tied to that?
I agree. Ta-Nehisi talked about that.
Yep.
Reparations. I have a tiny house in Arlington, but my father and mother didn't have wealth.
Right.
Come from, great grandpa, and he had a business, and a diamond business. And
yeah. But your family were public servants, right? Your father was a mayor. He was a veteran. Your mother was a social worker.
And by the way, my mother was also mayor after my father.
Okay. You had two mayors in the family. It's amazing. Yeah. And you should be fine. But of course, like you said, that's not how wealth works in America. Wealth works from many, many generations handed down, of handing on property and property and property and property, and then to the point where it's almost impossible to disrupt that, generations old wealth distribution.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know, change some of the laws, but then white people always do the backlash thing and change them back.
Right. We're in one of those moments right now.
Yeah, you're right now. I mean, with the Voting Rights Act, with the Civil Rights Act,
Anti-woke stuff and the DE&I and rolling back all that. Yeah.
Now it's going to be interesting to see if the corporations like Target, who had a DEI program, they want Black folks to come to their stores.
Yeah. It ain't
So
happening.
now what are you going to do?
It ain't happening. I think that's one of my signs of hope is that boycott. I think that
The
boycott
boycotts?
was extremely effective. It turns out that can, when you hit people in the bottom line, it makes a difference.
Well, I guess that's what we have to do then.
I guess so.
I won't go to Target anymore.
Well, we'll stop there, Gail. Thank you so much. It's been amazing to talk to you. Thank you
I love this. I
you.
love talking to you. We have to do it again.
We will. Thank you for sharing your life with us, and also thank you for all the anti-racism work that you're doing.
I got to keep going. Keep it moving.
Awesome.
My sister's in it too. But anyway.
Amazing. Well, God bless her as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Ben.
Thanks for being
with us. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you, Gail.
And I'm glad you're on a new path.
I am on a new path. That's
right.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Unreroute the rivers. Let the dam.
Thank you for listening to Confronting Whiteness, Testimonies of Transformation with Reverend Ben Boswell. We invite you to learn more about the course and the community by visiting confrontingwhiteness.com. There you can explore resources, register for a group, and find ways to deepen your own journey. We also encourage you to get involved, nominate someone or even yourself to share a testimony on this podcast or sign up to volunteer. If you are a past participant, consider becoming a group facilitator. Together we can cultivate courage, hope, and transformation.
The water won't even make mud. Now after it comes, it might come with a steady flow. Grab the roots of the tree, down by the river, dip your cup when your spirit's low. Clap your hands down.